All right. Hello, this is Travis Lindsay. I'm a professor at Cal State Fullerton in entrepreneurship. I'm also an angel investor and manager at the Center for Entrepreneurship and CSUF Startup Incubator. And today I have with me Darren Jones. He is in the Alumni Association. He works for Disney. All around good guy. See him on social media all the time. And Darren, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm a 91 graduate from Cal State Fullerton from the School of Business, although I do have a minor in English literature, and that's back before it was Mahalo. But even back then, right, we had an entrepreneurship program. I took several classes and absolutely loved it. Have an MBA from Wayne State University in Michigan in marketing, and then the fun thing is I'm actually a technology executive at Disney. So it goes to show you, you have these education things you do, and then, where you kind of land. And for the last 20 years of my career, I've been involved in tech. Absolutely love it. And at Disney, I have broad responsibilities in the enterprise technology organization that supplies technology services to everything in the Walt Disney Company. So anything from our sports world of ESPN to our media brands like ABC and Freeform, to our theme parks, to National Geographic, which we now own, to Fox Television, which we now own, on and on. So it's quite a blast. And then I live in Fullerton. I'm right by the Cal State Fullerton campus. And so I'm over for Alumni Association meetings all the time to watch our great Division I athletes do their thing, community events. And then I'm also deeply involved in the community itself. I'm on the board of directors for Pathways of Hope that supports housing and food insecurity solutions and a variety of other things. So I keep busy, I have fun, and I'm proud type.
Very cool. So now you keep busy, you do a lot of stuff. I mean, I see you all over the place, at least online.
Yeah.
Is that part of, do you chalk that up as part of the reason why you're successful?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have one pet peeve, if you will, as a hiring manager, right, as someone that has a lot of staff. And I interview a lot of people when I have open positions, or I'm often in interview polls where, someone's trying to get a broad perspective of a potential candidate. The one thing we look for as hiring people, right, when we're hiring people, we look for people that, this is not a judgment on introversion or extroversion. It's really, what we look for are people that want a human connection, and they don't just want, if you will, right, the dumbed down term is it's just a job. So they'll show up, you'll be technically competent, but you'll get nothing more. We spend far too much time at work to have a lack of culture, a lack of human connection, a lack of purpose that we all share. And so whether, when we're looking at people, we're looking for people that are demonstrating that. So let's take Cal State Fullerton Titans. We want, to see people that have, even in cases where they have limited time, right? So we know plenty of Titans need to work to help support the cost of their education and so forth. But with what time you have, did you invest in the institution, in your fellow students, working with your faculty? We look for people maybe who are now outside of college. Once they got into the work world, is that all they do? Or are they a part of their community? Are they engaged in society at large? We love that when we're hiring people. We want people that are multidimensional, passionate about a number of things, and committed to more than just what's on paper to get a paycheck or whatever. So to directly go back to your question, I think a huge part of, if you will, my success has been that I've just been engaged ever since I was a freshman at Cal State Fullerton. In fact, I learned my chops on how to be engaged at Cal State Fullerton. And, it teaches you the skills of how to navigate difficulty, ambiguity, persistence, because plenty of things you can do when you support the nonprofit world and so forth. You're dealing with very few resources. You're dealing with compassionate statements or motivating statements to get people on board to support something for which they will get no personal benefit, except that they see the world or people around them do better because of that support. So if you're not connected, you got to change that. It will not help your career. If you want to start a business, I don't know where you're going to get customers if you, are not engaged in the world in which you live. I will say one final statement on this topic. The businesses of downtown Fullerton, we are dining with them every single solitary day, and it is expensive, by the way, right? The credit card bill proves it. plenty of those business owners are titans. The community is rallying around those folks, and most of those businesses who have, you know, had to shut down their traditional dine-in business model are going to survive. They were engaged in the community, donating goods, services, gift cards, their locations to support community events, anything from Little League to fundraisers for Pathways of Hope. The community is paying it back, knowing that now their engagement in the community, we have affection for them. They are great people in the community, and they have a good product, right? And so you're seeing them now going through the hardest time in, you know, economically 50 years. They're going to come out of this because the community is rallying around them. It comes around to be engaged.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that I teach in my leadership class for entrepreneurs, and I'm doing it this semester right now. And it's been, you know, difficult at times because of the coronavirus, getting detached from the students a little bit. They're detached from us. It's always great to go into the classroom and have discussions with them. And they're also working with clients, so local business owners, many of them who have had to completely shut down. And one of the big things that each of the teams is working on is that culture fit with the company. And so one of the things that I taught in my class was Jack Welch's kind of quadrant of employees, right? And one of the quadrants is it's a good culture fit with the employee and the company, and they're good at what they do. And if you have that employee, you know, hold on to them as tightly as you possibly can forever. And on the other end, if there isn't a culture fit, then it'll never be a good fit, even if they're, you know, a stellar worker and all the other stuff. So that is huge, and I think that's a big thing that students need to get. And look,
by the way,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Travis, just one thing. It's kind of interesting too. There's cultural fit. A lot of folks can interpret that. I used to. If you think of the traditional image, I'll stay on Disney for a moment, right? You would go to a theme park and no one would have facial hair and they're like, you know, perfect Americana. But that didn't really reflect the world of our guests who come and visit us and a passion around us, if we think of the theme parks. Mm-hmm. And so over time, right, we in the company have really just changed who we recruit. The cultural fit is who you are in your heart and soul. If you were to walk into the main technology building in Burbank, Glendale for Disney, I mean, we're in 53 countries around the world. We have tech everywhere. The main building in the Burbank, Glendale area, which is where the corporate headquarters are, you would walk in and see people that are tatted up, have spiked hair, have you know, unbelievable amounts of pierced noses and things like that. Yeah. I would say 20 years ago, that would have been viewed as a cultural incongruity within Disney, which had more, if you will, traditional sort of standards. Mm-hmm. We've really changed that. And I love that when I walk in that building, I see people who reflect all levels of the world in which we live, including some folks who may look in a way that we would not have been comfortable with at one point, but now we fully embrace because in their heart, right, they're a great cultural fit. And so we leave behind the old norms sometimes, right? And we're trying to do it all the time of just like, oh man, that person doesn't look Disney. But you know, that person is not representing Disney, if you will, as a Disney character, right? They are working in a role that's highly valuable. They're highly skilled. They're bringing their authentic self. And their authentic self includes passionate work, great interpersonal skills, a commitment to others, selflessness, right? So I also wanted to kind of highlight that cultural fit has changed even in big companies like a Disney. And I love seeing it. And I'm trying to fully not only embrace it, but to help it to expand so that we can bring people who are authentic to who they are. They don't have to pretend to be something else. They can come to work who they are, and we should fully embrace them, support them, and help to make their careers thrive. The cultural lack of fit, though, can be if your heart's not in the right place, we have problems, right? That's where we fall apart.
Right. So what would you tell to somebody who maybe isn't as involved? I mean, would you just say, start getting involved and, you know, see where it takes you? You'll probably surprise yourself and you'll enjoy it, or?
Yeah, make it easy on yourself. We all look for role models in life, and we love to have role models. I have amazing role models to this day, and I'm well into my career, well into my 50s. So yeah, find a role model who is accessible to you, and wants to be sort of a mentor to you on how to be involved, and shadow them. That way you don't have to go make your own introductions, break your own ice, right? Leverage their intro, and find the path that way. I mean, there's no point in making it hard. Anyone who, right, has had that cold call, and entrepreneurs have to do a lot of that, right?
Yep.
You've got to reach out to people you don't know. But the good news is you're at a university, 40,000 students strong, 300,000 alumni within 100 miles of the campus. You've got all kinds of opportunities for people who can be that sort of mentor that you can shadow into being more engaged. And, then from there, you'll find your own path. You'll get your own comfort zone, which is important. You want to get comfortable with that. But that's what I really recommend. Yes, to your question, yes, just go for it, but make it easy on yourself. Find somebody who's already deeply engaged that you admire, and simply ask for permission to join them in the things that they do in the community or in business or in whatever. And then, right, you learn from them, make it easier on yourself, you get your comfort zone, then you're fine.
Yeah. One of the things that I've done in the past, and I know you must have do this all the time, is you know of somebody or an organization that you respect, and then you reach out to them and say, hey, how can I help? What can I do? How can I be involved? And that's usually a really good way to also make that connection.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most organizations, right? It's interesting right now, right?
Yeah.
Obviously in the era of coronavirus, but we're going to get back to a normal in the next few months, a new normal, but it'll be more normal than not.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're right. There are so many opportunities. One of the best things I'll tell you, it was an old school thing, but it did me so well. Once a year, the Orange County Business Journal put out a book of lists. And it was sort of like the 10, 20, 50 biggest companies by category, right? So by pharmaceutical, and by hospitality, and by engineering, and by real estate. And I used to obsess over that list when it came out and think about, who were these organizations? How did they reach that level on the list? Where did they fit in my worldview? And did I want to be associated to them? And I did, literally pick up the phone. There was a point when I moved back from, I moved a variety of places. When we came back to California in 2000, I picked up that Orange County Journal book of lists, and I started calling folks. It landed me a consulting opportunity that I did for a year at something called Jazz Semiconductor in Newport Beach, one of the last semiconductor fabs in California, and they're no longer there. By literally calling and saying, I'm fascinated by your industry, here's what I've done. And is there room for someone like me to just kind of come and learn more? And I happened to reach a VP of sales who was just like, oh my God, this is great, and a week later I had signed a consulting contract and was leading a number of efforts for Jazz Semiconductor. Couldn't ask for easier or better. And all I did was make a phone call. I was a little nervous making those kinds of phone calls, I know, but boy, did it work out.
So how many people did you have to call before you got that response?
Oh my God, it was so low. I don't remember because it was 20 years ago, but I just remember being so profoundly happy in that period because everyone was accepting my call. And even if it was a polite, like, we already have an internship program. We already are engaged with a lot of people. We just don't have room to engage you right now. I had a few of those, but most everyone was like, wow, you have such an interesting background. It's great that you moved back to California. Let's talk. And it was just weeks and just maybe, let's call it a dozen phone calls. I was just, wow, this, a lot of people must not be doing this because everyone was so taken aback that I was picking up the phone and calling and they were accepting of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just you put in the work and good things happen. I mean, I see too many people think that, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to make 1,000 calls. That's impossible to do. I'm just going to go through normal routes or normal channels and just do it the traditional way. But if you do things a little bit differently, good things can happen. Right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks, it's easy in the social media world where people can be, that you don't know, can be snarky about your comments, can label you, trash you. In the professional world, when you pick up that phone and call an organization, call a person in an organization, especially a person who's made themselves available, right? You see them doing interviews, you see them post in social networks, you see that they want to be accessible. You know, we're used to so much trash talk and things like that, especially in the world of Twitter. We forget most people are very professional, very kind, very straight up, true, and especially those that put themselves out there, business leaders that make themselves accessible. Well, you're going to have a good outcome. There's really nothing to be afraid of. It may not land to an internship, it may not land to a job, but it will land with a connection. That matters a whole lot.
Yeah. So my response to that is that the people who actually have the time to trash talk and go on Twitter and say mean things. I mean, you don't want to really be involved with those people, and B, if they have time to do that sort of thing, they probably aren't doing much that's worthwhile.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, unless they're a comedian and they're basically just getting paid to do that sort of stuff. Probably they're just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people in a one-on-one situation or in a phone call, man, they're going to be so good to you. You're not going to have a bad experience. You may not, you got to go in with the right expectation, right? You're building a connection. You're trying to, even if it's a 10-minute call, to learn something from that individual and to offer them something. But, if that's your expectation, it's going to be met every time. If your expectation is, gosh, I hope this lands into a job, you know what? That's the wrong expectation. Just see where it goes, but engage. You will get an outcome eventually. You will.
Yeah.
Of course you will.
All right. So we're nearing the end of the 20 minutes. This summer, I'll ask for some advice for myself and for my students this summer. I'm teaching the MBA capstone course. The students, they're going to be doing consulting projects for existing businesses. And I don't know if you've ever engaged with a student consulting team before in any of your work, but what kind of advice would you give to one of those teams going into it?
Yeah, I have actually. So I have sort of three thoughts on that. Thought number one is truly recognize you are in a unique era, and bringing traditional advice that you may have learned through, case studies and so forth, may not be as relevant right now. Capital markets are surprisingly healthy right now in this period because of Fed action. But, if you think of banking markets, liquidity, the amount of both business and consumer money available in the economy to restart the economy, there's so much that is now different. So make sure you're not bringing traditional case study standards. There's a lot of great media right now around how innovative businesses are pulling through this and reinventing themselves, but also they're not abandoning the model that made them successful. They've got to find a bridge to, both a new model, elements of a new model, but also the model that made them successful.
Yeah, it's more transformation than revolution.
Yeah. And we got to do that at Disney. I mean, how do you reopen a theme park in the era of COVID-19, for example? But anyway, right. So, do not bring just what you've learned in a traditional sense. We are in a new era. Number two, honor and respect the folks that you are consulting with. They are dealing with enormous heartache and anxiety. And you want to bring empathy and compassion, not just a service. They need that. People need that right now, right? Bring the human element. And number three, bring optimism. The thing is, right, we could go on and on and on about the things that have affected our world. In my lifetime, I think I was born as Vietnam was going on, right? Then we had 2 Gulf Wars. We had oil crises. We had inflation of 20%. Then we had the economic meltdown a decade ago, and now we have COVID. Most of the students are probably, even at an MBA level, are too young to realize how many calamities have happened. And yet, because people have been inventive and passionate and have worked well together and made smart decisions, we've come out of all those things. They're in the rearview mirror. So bring optimism, not stupid optimism, like everything's going to be great, but bring the kind of optimism that brings planfulness, action, and results. And that will help whoever you're consulting with. Everyone needs optimism right now. The biggest companies, the smallest companies, the sole proprietor entrepreneur to the company that is a franchise that maybe has 50 employees. everyone needs optimism, but you have to do it in a respectful way, because almost every business owner that I know is hurting. Every corporate executive knows their organization is hurting. You have to find that balance.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave it at that. Darren, thank you very much for giving us some of your time, and hopefully we can do this again. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I very much did too. Thank you.